Hey, how's everybody doing today? This is Mark Brody, and I'm back with another episode of Coffee Talk with Brohawk. And today, I'm humbled to have my guest on today, Jakob Mattice, and he is also, in addition to what he does during his day job, and I'll let him explain that. He's also the one of the co-hosts of the podcast CXQA. And if you haven't watched that one, also go ahead and check him out. But Jakob, thank you very much for joining me today. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to these days.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Mark. Really crazy that you're humbled that you let me be on the show. I'm actually humbled you let me be on here. So it's really cool. I love that. But yeah, hi everybody. My name is Jakob with a K. Very unique trait that not a lot of Jacobs have. As Mark did mention, I am one of the hosts on the CXQA Live podcast. For my day job, I like to scare people off by telling them I'm in sales, but the sales that we go about, it's a lot more relationship based. It's really not about trying to sell you anything. Honestly, I just love networking with people. I like to make connections. I like to contribute to the industry, and I like to do whatever I can just to help people out. And if that just so happens to be my solution, if you think that the solution to your problem is to make your agents better, then yeah, I'll probably talk product with you.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen all too often, right? No, the contact center is fine. We don't need to worry
you
about
know,
agents.
yeah, I mean, everything works perfect. Nobody needs
Yeah,
anything.
nothing wrong with my process.
Why are we networking these days? I mean, come on,
Yeah,
seriously.
come on.
Everything
And
works
we miss
perfect
out.
in my four walls.
Yeah, but we need to network for opportunities like
Yeah.
this. For me to come on here, and then maybe for you to come on to CXQA Live. I don't know. Maybe.
Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen, my friend.
Do it. You heard it here first. On Coffee
Excellent.
Talk with Brohawk.
There you go. There you go. So you've had a really successful professional career, up to this point, and your
Yeah.
ceiling is way up there. Um, I'm particularly interested in learning from you as we start getting into our conversation today. Um, your thoughts about this? If at this stage in your career,
Mhm.
if you can go back in time
Mhm.
and tell your younger self X, what would that be, and how would it have helped you navigate your career up to this point? In you know, taking that a step further, how is it going to help? How would it help you navigate your career into the future?
Ooh, starting right off with the big one there. Could I tell my past self? Don't think that just because you're not the smartest guy in the room that your voice doesn't deserve to be heard.
Mm,
Always be genuine, true to yourself, and don't ever try to position yourself as something that you're not.
yes.
Through my career, I have often seen myself, whether I was waiting tables or if I was doing dispatch for a rental company, I've always
Mm-hmm.
kind of seen myself as a bit of a lower valued role and a
Okay.
lower value individual. I got to work with some very intelligent and very talented people that knew exactly what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, that was a little bit intimidating for me to the point where it actually squandered my ability to speak as me. I felt like in order to play with the big dogs, I had to be a big dog. In order to play with the top performers, I had to like do the exact same things that they did if I wanted to succeed. What I've discovered over time is that everybody has a unique situation. And this really ties into with the contact center world, I think, because when I used to work for a company doing dispatch and
Uh-huh.
doing inbound calls and whatnot, there's so much responsibility that falls to an operations role. And to be considered a top performer in that, or to be considered good at your job,
Mm-hmm.
uh, what it is, and I guess it's true with any job, is really people management.
Mm.
I mean, we could talk about it. Business business cannot exist without people, right?
Yep.
And not almost every single transaction that we make is a person-to-person transaction. So everybody's going to have their strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
And I think it's very important for us to be able to embrace not only those strengths, but also what we recognize as weaknesses and what we can do to do better. All that kind of in a roundabout way to say, had I known that growing as a professional, just being able to own who I am and what I can and cannot do,
Mm-hmm.
it would have given me a bit more perspective on things and maybe make me have a little bit more of a positive attitude
Okay.
about going to work and not feeling so insignificant compared to my coworkers. But at the same time, I'm the kind of person that doesn't like to live with regrets. And the fact that I did kind of get to experience that low feeling is
Mm-hmm.
something that I am oddly grateful for because I got to experience it early on in my career. And then when I did finally get to see, hey, my voice does matter and I can add my voice, my 100% genuine voice to the conversation and everything's fine with it, that made that moment so much sweeter. So,
Yes.
yeah, if I could go back in time, I'd do that. But at the same time, I wouldn't because I was grateful for the experience for it.
Now, now, as someone who's been in leadership roles
Mhm.
in some way, shape, or form,
Yeah.
also, do you impart that knowledge to your the importance of the work that everybody on the team gets to do as an integral part of the organization's success?
See, Mark, to me, it sounds like we're about to talk about employee experience and agent experience. Uh,
Yeah.
what a natural transition. I love it. But yeah,
Yes.
even even going beyond people that I've managed over, I look at people in my network that maybe don't have as much experience as I do. And I mean, honestly,
Hmm.
I don't have all that much experience in comparison to other people who have been in this industry for 20 years. But there's always that servant leadership mentality, right? Everybody
Yep.
talks about that. That's really it's not only the fact of being able to impart that knowledge on future generations so that
Hmm.
they can do the same in turn.
Yep.
I feel like it's just something that's like a natural tendency that we have as people, and
Hmm.
especially if you're a people person, just to kind of be able to help whoever, whenever, wherever, however you can.
Yeah.
And I especially look at the contact center, and this is the main reason that I got into the contact center space, was because of my experience with technology in the past
Hmm.
and how much I love tech, and I wanted to get into SaaS sales.
Yep.
But getting into the contact center was really important too, because I have worked very, we'll just say, frontline roles before, whether it's waiting tables in a restaurant
Hmm.
or doing dispatch and operations. There's there's so much that goes on, and so much that goes on, even if you're just, I don't know, let's say you work for a utility company, somebody's turning on their electricity. If they had a bad
Yep.
day, they're going to take it out on you. It doesn't matter what.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter what happens, even if like you get everything set up flawlessly. They're still we can't control the experience that they have before that phone call starts. And unfortunately, it is the front line, it is the agents
Hmm.
who get the brunt of that. Not only that, but it's kind of a sandwich because if you have poor management, you have this customer that's really upset about what's going on in their life, taking it out on you. And then you
Yep.
also have management trying to hold you to these metrics like, well, your handle time is way too high, or you this isn't a first call resolution, or your net promoting score is low. All the metrics
Yes.
everybody wants to talk about. But I find it really, really valuable just to kind of instill like the core values of what it is to be a decent individual, not just to be a decent agent or become a top performer. Just what are things that we can do to make your job and your life easier, but to be able to impart that same kind of level of comfort and that same feeling of ease on others as you continue to grow.
Yep. That's awesome. And it's hard for sometimes the receiver of that imparting of knowledge or knowledge impartation. I'm going to make up words right now.
I like
Um,
it.
Hey, we'll work with it. Um, Sometimes the receiver of that, they're not ready to take it in. You've seen those TED Talks or those other employee engagement type of discussions where they have the literal glass of water and they keep on filling it, and all of a sudden it just spills over.
Yeah.
Um, and so I mean, if the receiver of that isn't ready to take on more of that knowledge transfer or that experience transfer,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to shut down. You know,
Yeah.
and I liked your example. I love your background because I have a similar background when it comes to
Yeah.
waiting tables. That's how I went through college.
There you
Um,
go.
and one of the things that I loved about that job, and I think it kind of plays into sales or customer experience, even today, is when you're waiting tables, it's not just about bringing food out timely. Okay,
Right.
timeliness of order is important,
Yes.
just like timeliness of resolution is important in the customer service in the contact center world. But it's also in creating an experience for that guest that they weren't expecting that they were going to have, and hopefully it's a positive experience, um, in a way that in a way that they weren't anticipating. And even if they were having a crappy day up to that point, they leave the experience with you as a server, um, in a better mood than what they came in, or you just
Yep.
took their happy mood up a couple of other notches. um,
Yep.
you know so yeah, it was a kind of a good transition from, how would what would you tell your younger self to, today, one of the things that we hear is that, CX is all about the technology. So,
Mm-hmm.
and you usually hear CX and AI interchangeably used. Yeah, I have the same reaction, especially with tech companies. They're like, oh, you buy our product and we will julienne fries for you. um and, you know and it's going to be the best thing you could ever purchase. And there's some things, but how do you differentiate CX from AI?
For me, that's not hard. Those are two
Okay.
completely separate terms, and I'm ready to argue this as long as we need to, man. I'll go hours on this with you, but I know you see it from the same perspective that I do. So CX, the customer experience, is not solely reliant on technology. A lot of people think that it is, and then as soon as you start talking about technology, it's AI.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that we're having so much overlap is because of the kind of developments that we've had with AI. I can't tell you
Mm-hmm.
how many people that I've talked to, both on CXQA Live, as well as
Mm-hmm.
just as individuals separate from the show,
Yeah.
and talking about what AI is doing in the contact center right now. It is taking all of the not meaningless, menial
Mm-hmm.
tasks, all the things that are easy to do, everything that's very transactional, very simple,
Mm-hmm.
and it's finding the best way to do that because that's what AI does best. You train it,
Yeah.
hey, if this, then that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to if this, then that.
Yes.
But
Yes.
that's what it is. And
Uh-huh.
even with generative AI, it's still learning based off of that concept. You feed it this information and it's going to perform this way for you.
Mm-hmm.
There are people out there, and it makes me cringe when I say this, it physically makes me cringe that there are people out there that believe that you can replace agents fully with AI. And
Mm-hmm.
you can tell that physically hurts me to say because, like you, and having that servant leadership background with your different
Yep.
roles, we understand that, like you said, perfect example with the restaurant. I actually find a lot of similarities between front of house people that work in restaurants and the call center.
Yes.
However, getting back on track.
That's a whole show all into itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Your front of house staff is in charge of creating great experiences, right? And to do
Mm-hmm.
that, you have to know the customer. You have to know what they need. You have to know what they
Yep.
want in that moment. You have to be able to read them. You have to be able to wait for it, empathize with the customer. Now, don't get me wrong. I have been to the shows. We went to CCW recently, and even as a vendor, I do kind of gag a little bit because everybody was talking about AI. Like
Mm-hmm.
everything was AI. Nothing was focused on anything but AI.
Yep.
Maybe two or three different vendors there that did not have AI in their messaging, and I wanted to buy them a
Mm-hmm.
drink for it. However, it's I've seen tools that can measure empathy.
Mm-hmm.
I hesitate to say that because we all know empathy is a very human characteristic, and it's really hard to be able to measure. Like you can measure sentiment and you can measure like facial expressions, but
Yep.
there's something human. There's something in human nature, and there's something about us that we can just kind of click into almost like this wavelength that we get people to people that AI is
Mm-hmm.
never going to replicate.
Yep.
And no matter what happens in regards to AI coming into the contact center, I don't think it's ever going to overtake somebody's job. I don't think AI and CX are as synonymous as everybody says because the customer experience is all about the customer. And AI, as great as it is never going to replace what the customer needs, and that is human interaction. And
Yep.
that's not to say that self-service doesn't have a place. It does.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where AI is going to shine. But if you work for a debt collection agency, think about that.
Yeah.
That's a very and that's a very what do we want to say? Difficult. Difficult doesn't describe it.
Yes.
You're talking to people who may find themselves in a situation that they can't help.
Yep.
And it is so important, especially when it comes to like debt collection agents or anything that's very emotional, we'll call it.
Yep.
Anything that's very personal, where there's a lot of life overlap and it's not just business to business or business to consumer. It's you really kind of have to tap into that vulnerability and be able to empathize with these people and really work something out. AI is not going to be able to do that. Would it be able to mimic it? Maybe. I don't know how far off that is. But there's also this question too. I'm getting a little off track here, but we
No,
will
you're
come back.
good.
This is how it works. I like to think about AI and mimicry, and that's interesting. This is the first time I've tried to go off on a tangent and then noticed I was going on a tangent, and now I'm trying to get back
Well,
onto the
I
tangent,
mean,
back on the point.
one of the things that you brought up, because some of my background is in debt collections. Um,
Okay, yeah.
and so I get what you're saying, because one of the hardest things that there was for me in in coaching and
Mm-hmm.
developing either first party or third party collection agents, um, was someone says something really bad happened to them. What's a natural thing that someone's going to say? Oh, sir, ma'am, I understand. And
Mm-hmm.
getting rid of that whole understand, and that's what AI would normally do, is just say no. And the reason that I say that is, if you say that you understand what somebody's doing, do you really understand, their situation? Each
Right.
person's situation is very unique. And to your point, um, the ability for AI today, to be able to um, differentiate situations that are happening to humans and view them as solely unique situations, asking the right questions that are going to elicit a an experience. It's just not there. um
Yeah, it's
just
not.
not there you know
And
um
and I don't think it ever will be. I don't
yeah.
think it would ever have the capacity to do so
Hmm.
personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's going to take a long while, but I think what it does, and I think this is kind of where we've been talking, previously about is AI, like you said, can go ahead and get rid of some of those first line issues,
Yeah.
password resets. Hey, I just want to
Yeah.
make a
Everything on
payment,
tier one.
things like that. Um, but what it does then is it levels up um,
Right.
the agent
Yep.
to force them to be smarter, force them to deal with some of the more complex human centric issues that may be going on.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I was actually, it was really interesting. I was talking to Phil Bennett with
Mm-hmm.
Empire,
Yep.
and he was talking about how what everybody's talking about is the AI is going to replace contact center agents and it's going to cut your workforce and yada yada yada, all this.
Yep.
He proposes it a different way. As you continue to use AI to take care of the easy stuff, the harder
Mm-hmm.
stuff is going to become much more common. Your customers are no longer going to have basic issues calling into the call center, talking to agents, and saying, "I need my password reset." Now it's going to be, "Hey, you cut my lights off, and I can't make the payment this month. What can we do?"
Mm-hmm.
You're going to need a crack team, and
Yep.
maybe you do start reducing the numbers a bit just to create almost like a super agent.
Mm-hmm.
But once people realize that they can call in and get this solved, it's just going to create more demand for these more intelligent and more empathetic agents, these ones that are able to just really excel at what they do. Just
Yeah.
it's it's amazing in so many ways because the agent, as I've said, is a very undervalued position.
Mm-hmm.
But if we are able to make this shift
Yeah.
from turning these agents from something transactional into something that requires more emotion and thought and communication and genuity,
Mm-hmm.
it's finally going to give agents the voice that they need. And it's going to show to the brand, the company as a whole,
Yep.
I am very, very vital. Without me, all you have is transactional
Yes.
interactions. You don't have anything else beyond that. So I am excited for that when it comes to AI adoption.
It's funny, even in a sales role, um, you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck from in the sales world, um,
Mm-hmm.
if you're more relationship focused as opposed to transaction focused.
Yeah,
Um, and the frontline agents are no different. If they're able to go ahead and build rapport very quickly with that person that's on the other line, because I don't know, I I have this feeling that I don't think anybody calls in to a contact center because they were able to get everything they needed from self-serve chat or website. Um, you know, so at some point in time, there's a disconnect. Well, I take that back. I'm sure there are some folks that are just more comfortable calling in because that just that's just um, they're more comfortable
yeah. The preferred
interaction.
channel of communication.
Exactly, exactly. And so, just like the IVR, 30 years ago when it came on the scene, it was going to replace all agents and everybody was going to be
Yep,
able to do everything. And what did it do? It leveled up agents. Okay.
exactly.
Internet, what happened? You're able to put your FAQs out there. What did it do? It leveled up agents. And
Yep,
then, with AI and bots and machine learning, leveled up agents, and I think it's going to continue. I think I agree with you. I think those things are going to continue to happen, um, going forward. Um, you know, let's kind of dig in a little bit to CX strategy for a moment.
okay.
Okay. And what do you think that organizations are missing? Or what do you think the top gap that um, organizations that want to have a CX focus are missing in their strategy?
It's very simple.
Uh-huh.
people like to think that customer experience is all about the customer.
Uh-huh.
And it is.
Mm-hmm.
But what's more important is the foundation of what customer experience is.
Mm-hmm.
It's that team that sits on those calls and sits in front of the chat window. It's your agents. Your agents are absolutely vital in everything that your brand does, not just for the contact center.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to focus on your agents is automatically going to improve the customer experience. And I know
Mm-hmm.
that's not a new narrative. It's not at all. It was new maybe about a year ago when we first started saying it, but now I'm hearing a lot of people say, well, in order to improve my CX, I have to improve my AX. But the thing that
Yes.
bothers me about that thinking is, well, if I want this to improve, if I want to improve my CX, then I have to do this. There's like this mandatory feel to it when
Mm-hmm.
it really should be more of recognition
Yeah.
than I feel like I have to do this. There's there's this misunderstanding, I'll call it,
Mm-hmm.
that the agent is, again, you've heard this a lot, a necessary evil. The contact center
Yeah.
is a necessary evil. If we didn't have it, we'd be so much better off, but we have to have it because we have to find a way to communicate with your customers. Well, how else are you going to do it?
Yeah.
How else are you going to get customer feedback? How else are you going to know where in the customer experience, where in the process, where in their journey you're going to have
Mm-hmm.
faults? You get that from your agents. You don't get that from anywhere else.
Yes.
And it's absolutely mind-boggling too to think that we're not focusing on this more as brands, as companies,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that value that's there, recognizing the literal gold mine that is there. Not only are you getting customer insights, but you're getting feedback from, if you are getting feedback from your agents, then you're learning about your process, what works, what doesn't, what people
Yeah.
like, what people dislike. Um, on CXQA Live, we actually had Doug Raybold on the show, who I'm sure you're
Love
familiar.
Doug. Yeah.
Doug's amazing. Love
Yes, he
Doug.
is.
But yeah, he's got Bold Ray Consulting, which I'm just now recently realizing that Raybold,
Yeah.
that's how it works. Good job, Doug. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, he said something that he wants to go after is the customer that just like ups and leaves completely, like somebody that just completely disconnects from your brand after having a bad experience.
Mm-hmm.
There's value there. You need to know how to
Yep.
get to that customer and say, hey, what was it about this interaction between you and my agents, or what in the process upset you to the point where you don't want to do business anymore? if
Mm-hmm.
if there wasn't an agent that would have caused that in the first place, or something in the process that would have caused that in the contact center, you would never get that feedback at all. So that's what I think most of brands who are looking to improve their CX are missing, is the fact that everything relates back to the agent and the agent experience.
Yeah, so we had a little bit of a technical difficulty there. So I'm going to go ahead and just go back and try and recreate where we were,
Yeah,
because Jacob, you and I were having a great little conversation there, and technology being what technology is. So
yeah.
um, so
Good
um,
point.
so we were talking about the agent experience and the
Mhm.
employee experience, and there being some conflation um, between people equating employee engagement with agent experience,
Mm,
you know,
okay.
and that was a big trend. you know Everybody was all about employee engagement. We have the most engaged employees at our organization,
What is
and
that?
exactly. Oh,
How?
they like the pizza that you bring in, or the food that you bring in, or
Oh,
you have an amazing cafeteria that nobody has to pay for, or whatever the case may be. And I think that people have, I think organizations have gotten so stuck in the employee engagement piece, um, and forgotten about, okay, free pizza, okay, sodas, water, coffee, okay, that's all great and everything, but how is the employee experience when they have to do their job?
Yeah.
um, and how does that factor in to creating that great customer experience? What are your thoughts there?
I hate the fact that you brought up pizza parties.
Yeah,
That one hits a little personally too, because usually whenever we would celebrate something, it was pizza.
yeah.
Um, and don't get me wrong, I love pizza. Pizza's great.
Yes,
Also, pineapple on pizza, yes, I am all for it.
thank you.
Okay, good, good. We're
Yes, we are
connected there.
good. We are
But
good.
we're not here to talk about pizza. It kind of goes back to this bigger issue, I think, that we have when we talk about engagement is we talk about culture as well.
Mm-hmm.
Agent culture is something that we don't often look at enough. Pizza parties aren't cutting it, people. We need
Yeah.
to be able to be there for our agents,
Mm-hmm.
even when they're not on the front lines. But of course, that does tie in directly with what they do with the agent
Mm-hmm.
experience. Because as I mentioned towards the top of this episode, the agent is a very often abused role, and
Mm-hmm.
is there's a lot of trauma that can come either from the customer end or management. Um,
Yep.
and obviously, being an agent in and of itself, typically the workload is while you're trying to handle a customer call, you could also have like your CRM up and trying to pull up all their information at the same time. You're
Mm-hmm.
juggling whatever phone system that you're using. Maybe you're handling a chat at the same time. If you can do that, man, God bless you. More power to you.
Yes.
But I am a one task kind of guy. But there's so much that happens for agents, and everybody's focused on, well, let's have a pizza party, let's do this, let's celebrate this great thing you had or whatever. But the core issues and where everything's happening and why your agents are performing the way you want isn't because
Mm-hmm.
you have a crap culture or you don't have enough of a culture. It's because your experience is way too complicated and your process has way too many steps and things that are just way too superfluous
Yep.
and don't even need to be there. Um, I mean, it's kind of silly and it sounds like it's a little bit kumbaya, hold hands, let's dance and sing, but mental health, and especially when it comes to the contact center and the agent, is so important. And even
Yeah.
if you can just take away a few of those steps, a few of those stressors, if instead of having everything on like two different screens and you're trying to handle the conversation, well, hang on, let me jump over here. Okay, please hold, and then jump over here.
Yep.
Even just putting that onto one screen and just having that right in front of you and just handling it there, that's automatically just taking down the stress level. And
Mm-hmm.
agents that are less stressed are going to be happier. Happier agents create happier customers. It's like who was it? Is it Philadelphia cheese where they talk about happy cows make happy milk and makes the
Yeah.
cheese?
Borden.
It
Yeah.
was Borden. That's right. It is Borden.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry,
Uh-huh.
Borden. I didn't mean to give credit to the competitor there, but
And we're not plugging either
yeah,
Philadelphia
nope.
cream cheese
We're not plugging
or
anything.
Borden dairy.
But yes, happy agents create happy customers. And how do you create happy agents? Well, you
Yeah.
don't just throw them a pizza party. You actually look at the process that they're going through every day with every phone call and see
Mm-hmm.
where you can make adjustments to make their job so much easier. Because
Yeah.
happy agents will also perform better. They won't just make happier customers. They won't have all this stress on them. So they'll actually be able to do what you want them to do. And then maybe then some, right?
Yes.
So it's there is definitely a disconnect between agent experience and agent engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And until your C level realizes that, or until even you don't even have to go all the way to C level,
Mm-hmm.
contact center management, until they realize that there's always going to be that disconnect. And what will end up happening is if you focus on one over the other, it's going to cause issues somewhere. If
Yep.
you give me a nice simple process, it's great. But then if I have like a rough call and you don't have a way to help me deal with that, I'm gone. If you
Mhm.
have free beer on tap, or you have like a rec room where I can sleep or play video games or whatever, I don't know,
Yeah.
have a racquetball court at the call center. I haven't seen that yet. Um, but then you also make me go through this insane process to handle a call. I'm gone. So it's really important to strike that balance and to know the difference between the two, because without that, you're going to lose agents either way.
Yeah, and especially, since the pandemic, I mean,
Mm,
you didn't have the ability to do those in-person events, so that in-person, you know, a culture. And I think that caught a lot of organizations flat-footed because like,
yeah,
oh, we don't know how to engage with our people. And that was a common theme over the last couple of years is, well, we'll just do a Zoom call and or a Teams call or whatever call, and we'll do a video call and we'll be engaged with our people. But they're like, well, there's some organizations like nobody wants to go on camera. Well, of course not. They're
right.
in their pajamas, um, you know, because they don't have to be seen by the public, but they also don't have to, go into a physical building. So, I mean, people
Yeah.
were a lot more relaxed over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't create a relaxed culture because, honestly, a lot of organizations are saying performance actually improved by having people, at home,
Wow.
and whatnot. So, um, but no, I think that's a big pain point for people, for organizations, and it's continued to be a pain point. Making that big pivot from being 100% in the office to, oh, now everybody, now we either have agents that are home 100% or they're hybrid, and not everybody's in on the same days and whatnot. Um, I see that as a challenge, for a lot of organizations, as well. Um, how do you see AI fitting into, and I'm asking this, I'm going to kind of ask more of a leading question here.
Okay.
Because the one of the things that you hit on is, how do we make the agent's experience, the agent, better at what they do? And do you see that as the place where AI can fit in, is to provide those data points, of and feedback on like 100% of their calls,
Mm,
100% of their interactions, not just calls, but interactions,
yeah.
um, to create some trends or some themes that are being seen, so that when it becomes a coaching, opportunity,
Mm,
which should be happening a couple times a month,
yeah.
the manager or the supervisor, I hate using the term manager, the leader, um,
Yeah.
is able to go ahead and talk to themes and coach on themes, as opposed to the one or two calls that they happen to listen to, and extrapolate that as agent performance. So the agent is getting a little bit more of a holistic view as far as how they're performing. Do you see that as more of the role for AI within contact centers, especially when it comes to like agent experience?
So are we kind of looking more from like an analysis standpoint and summarization with AI?
I would say, not just analysis, but how is the agent creating that customer experience? So is it that they have the tools and the processes that they
Mm,
need to execute, a great customer experience, or do they have, tone and empathy issues that need to be coached on? They have all the knowledge, they're just not, um, they're just having a bad day, or they're having a bad week or something like that. So it's pulling out themes with, so AI to pull out themes as far as customer interactions, as
mm.
opposed to, um, leaving it all to the supervisor to say, yeah, I listened to two calls this month out of the 4,000 that you took, and here's where you need to improve. you know
I gotcha.
Obviously, a big stretch there, but
Yeah. Well, this is interesting because this is kind of what we're focusing on right now.
mm-hmm.
With this is kind of like this call simulation route.
Yeah.
Everybody's focused on wanting to replace their agents with AI. It's like, well, what if we could train agents with AI?
Mm-hmm.
And how do we train agents with AI? Well, we simulate a customer.
Yeah.
And basically, I think with what we've done, we've basically identified different call types, different personas
Mm-hmm.
that the fake customer can have.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really cool is having the ability to like take transcripts of these conversations and send them off to QA or your reviewer, leader, whoever wants to look at them, your trainer.
Mm-hmm.
And I especially think going back to your comment about COVID and a lot of people being remote now, I think having something like that to where you can just scale it so large, you just have this tool that your agents would use and they
Yep.
practice a simulation with this customer and practice this call type, and then you send it off to the trainer. They look at it and they're like, okay, well, I said you did this, but you didn't do that. It would have been a great opportunity to maybe do a little bit of a cross sale here,
Mm-hmm.
or should have been able to empathize with the customer here, and your response came off a little cold. I think, I think really that's. I know I talked earlier about AI being very transactional, but when I look at generative I think being able to kind of train it on your process from the customer
Mm-hmm.
perspective, I really think that's where AI does shine, is being
Yeah.
able to be by being trained on whatever criteria you see, whether it's a specific call type or if there's a
Mm-hmm.
specific persona. I know we talk about personas a lot with sales, the different personas that you have to sell to, but there are so many
Yep.
personas of customers because everyone's unique, right? Um,
Yeah.
we're all uniquely the same, and we're all the same because we're unique. But yeah, just I really like that standpoint of being able to allow the agent to almost coach themselves. It's almost like self-service for the agent, but then
Mm-hmm.
obviously you can't just let that go unattended. You can't give this to somebody and say, here, go practice like with 5 different customers, and then we're going to throw you right on the lines. Go for it.
Yeah.
But that's why it's important that you're able to like run transcripts and have like your trainers go through, analyze, QA, whoever.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, it's that's the potential of AI, is being used specifically for training and maybe not so much um, to do its own thinking.
I love it. I love it. Um, so when it comes to CX, and this
Okay.
is the final question before we'll get to we'll get to what I like to call the speed round. But when it
Okay.
comes to CX, um, what questions aren't are organizations not asking that they should be when it comes to CX?
Ooh, what questions aren't they asking? Well, obviously, I could plug CXQA Live here again
Yeah.
and say the agent. It's all about the agent.
Mm-hmm.
But let's look beyond that. Here's a good one. Do I need AI? Do I need this shiny new piece of technology, or do I need to focus on what's more important? Do I need to focus on my process as a whole?
Yeah.
Do I need to apply some sort of solution to fix that? Or is it something that I need to focus on as a leader, something that I need to do differently?
Mm-hmm.
Especially nowadays, right? Everybody talks about AI.
Yep.
Whether it's GPT, LLM, they're
Mm-hmm.
becoming buzzwords at this point. Um, but
Completely.
we're not we're not asking the important question, which is, does my process need tech to it, or do I need to work on that myself?
Mm-hmm.
Where are my issues? I think everybody's kind of claiming to be a unicorn right now, and
Mm-hmm.
again, back to we're all the same because you're unique. Um, I think if more leaders stop to ask that question, especially when it comes to CX, I mean AI,
Yep.
CX. I had to, because you asked that question.
Yes.
It's still making me boil a little bit, but we're past it now. Anyway, yeah, when it comes to CX, I think there's so much. Well, what can we do to become this digitally optimized customer experience department or effort or whatever? And it's less about, well, what do I need to work on in my process first? Like, is AI really going to fix this, or is this something that it is a much deeper issue? Do I have enough of an agent culture as well? Do I genuinely care about what's going on in the contact center, or am I one of those people that just looks at it like, well, we'll just keep throwing money at it and then hope something
Yep.
changes? Because
You know,
I've seen.
how you just went through that reminds me of the old saying, not saying old as an age, but when you point your finger at someone, you got four
You
fingers
point right
pointing
back
back
at
at
you.
you.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, looking at technology, hey, there's the magic wand, there's the magic bean. But before you start saying, yes, I'm going to go after this technology or that technology, start looking introspectively at your organization. So taking that adage and kind of putting it on its spinning it on its head, so to speak.
Yeah.
Not looking at it as a problem, but hey, here's a solution. But have we exhausted everything
Right.
internally
Yeah.
to say, yeah, this solution is the one and only solution. This type of solution is going to be the one that's going to um, you know cure everything that we need cured,
Oh,
so to speak.
oh man, the jack of all trades product. Golly,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
how you end up with shelfware, right? You have
Uh-huh.
somebody that promises it's going to fix all of your problems, and then
Yes.
there's maybe one thing that it does really well, and now you have a
Hmm.
problem because now you're paying for a software that solves one problem that does eight things, and those seven things aren't being accounted for.
Yes.
Oof.
Yes. And that's why I always tell folks that I work with, don't give the keys to a Lamborghini to a toddler. If it's
Yes,
more than what you need, then don't get it. Get
exactly.
what you need now and for what you think you're going to need for the next couple of years, because
Yep.
technology is going to change and evolve, and
Oh yeah.
and you know don't try and think you're going to solve world hunger by bringing this piece of technology in, and there's some great technologies out there.
No, there are.
So well, we've got to the point of our conversation, Jakob. It's called the speed round. You ready for this?
Sure. I think I can do this. Let's do it.
All right. All right. So, first question, what fact about Jakob would people be surprised to learn about you?
Okay. First thing that comes to mind, but I think a lot of people would guess that I'm in theater. I'm a very animated person. I can't help that. But what most of you may not know
Uh-huh.
is I used to be in a barbershop quartet.
Really
Yes, I used to sing tenor
interesting.
for a high school barbershop quartet, and then I also was in a show quartet for one of the musicals. We did The Music Man, and I got to be the tenor for that quartet as well. So, and
Very
I love it.
cool.
I love barbershop.
I love it. So, if I'm ever going to be out in your area and have
Yeah.
a desire to go karaoke,
Oh
um,
yeah,
I
yeah.
probably
So
want to bring you with me.
absolutely. Yep, we're going. Not
Excellent.
it's not a
Excellent.
matter of if, it's a matter of when. So
I
get your
love
calendar
it.
ready.
Done. Done. So, all of us have stressful days.
Yes.
What's your go-to tactic for unwinding after a stressful day?
Ooh, okay. Depends. If it's a nice day and there's nothing
Uh-huh.
going on, sometimes just go into the pool and
Yep.
swim is great. If it's a not so nice day, then it's either throw up a video game or go to YouTube and watch some people, or maybe pull out a book and do that and read. So,
Awesome.
pretty just laid back stuff. So reading, playing video games, and
There you go.
going to the pool, and just spending time with my wife too, because you got to do that.
Exactly. Exactly. Happy wife, happy life.
Amen.
And so, Jakob, this has been a great conversation with you,
Yeah,
and I'm interested in some of the work that your company does, and maybe
yeah,
we'll feature that on a future conversation. But
yeah.
if any of our viewers
Mhm.
are interested in talking to you about some of the work that your company does, they want to tune into your podcast, CXQA
Yes.
Live, or they just say, Jakob, where are you going to be? I want to go karaoke. What conferences are you going to be at?
Yeah.
How can they get in contact with you aside from me doing an introduction?
Yeah. Easiest way to get in touch with me is LinkedIn. I practically live there nowadays.
Okay,
Um, just look for me, Jakob Mattice, Jakob Mattice. Once you connect with me, you'll see the with a K appear because that is kind of
excellent.
my personal brand.
There you
Um,
go.
if you want to learn more about CXQA Live, you can register. It's completely free. If you just go
Okay,
to Vistio, that's vistio.io/CX Live, not
okay,
CXQA Live, CX Live,
okay.
and you can sign up for the sessions there. We bring on all kinds of people. We bring on thought leaders. We bring on consultants. We bring on just people who hold a high position in the contact center. And occasionally we'll be able to bring on somebody from the front lines. So it's just a really great
Awesome.
time. As mentioned earlier, we do focus on the agent experience. But yeah, if you have any questions in regards to any of that, or if you just want to get in touch, LinkedIn is the way to do it because that is where I live.
Jakob, thank you very much. I mean, this has been a
Yeah,
great conversation. I know
yeah.
you and I probably could have chatted for gone down some rabbit holes and been
Oh
on for another
yes,
couple of hours for
we could.
sure. Um, but no,
Absolutely.
this has been a pleasure for me to finally get you on a coffee talk episode,
Yeah,
and looking forward to actually meeting you in person sometime,
absolutely.
hopefully in the near future.
Yeah,
Um, and
for sure.
again, thank you for your offering your time to be a guest today. Really appreciate it. And if anybody wants me to do an introduction, feel free to reach out to me, or if you want, because you can't find Jakob on LinkedIn, which he's all over the place on LinkedIn.
Yes, I am.
I'm going to call him the mayor of LinkedIn there.
Oh,
Uh, hey, there you go. I got a new title for you,
I'll take it. Titles are important.
there you go. Exactly. That's a whole episode in and of itself.
Yep,
Uh,
that'll be a few months down the road.
exactly. But no, thank you all for tuning in. Jakob, thank you for being an awesome guest. Great conversation. And if you like this episode, please go ahead and like, comment, share it out to your network. We're good. This content is for no other reason than just to kind of spread some knowledge out there within the industry. So, Jakob, thank you very much, and y'all have a great day now.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. We'll see you.
Thank you.